We now welcome in Greg Jennings. Greg, what does Deshaun Watson's 4-year, $160 million extension with the Texans mean for Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys now?
It really means that all of what Dak Prescott has been chasing as far as his dollar, his number that he has for himself, he's been really on point. He's fully aware of what his market value will be and what he means to that organization and what these guys who he probably already knew was going to be making upwards of 38, 39, 40 plus, which was Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson, the two guys that we all talked about when it came to Dak Prescott's contract and the numbers being rising. I look at the Dallas Cowboys and they're the only ones to blame here. When you look at them having Dak Prescott in their hands, in their grasp, and all they had to do was sign him earlier, and now they've put all these weapons around him. He's going to do nothing but get better when you put young talent around a quarterback that it has a chip, that has something to prove, that has a new offensive coordinator, well, not an offensive coordinator, but an offensive mind as a head coach and Mike McCarthy that's going to put him in positions of success, who share the same like-mindedness of feeling like they have something to prove. This is trouble for the Dallas Cowboys. They're going to end up either having to pay Dak Prescott a bunch of money, what he was asking for, or he's going to walk out the door and someone else will pay him.
Greg, I got to say this first before we jump into any football.
Look at that.
Listen, it's a little beat up right now, okay? It's a little beat up right now, but I have more Greg Jennings jerseys than you do, buddy. I assure you that.
I love it.
Hey, listen, people don't know, man, you're one of my all-time favorite wide receivers. You're talking about smooth. You're talking about catching the ball. When you look in the dictionary at wide receiver, Greg Jennings pops out there. That's why I collect your jerseys. That's why I have way more Greg Jennings jerseys than you do. But anyways, listen, I think you're off. I think you're off here. I don't think it did anything for Dak and the Cowboys because there's a few positions where we look at the top 5 guys. Wide receiver is one of those positions. So when I was at the table, I was looking at your deal. I was looking at Randy Moss. I was looking at Terrell Owens. I was looking at Ocho Cinco. I was looking at all the top 5 guys during that time. And that's how we determined where my value was. At the quarterback position, I truly believe the approach is different. When you are one of those franchise quarterbacks, and there's only around 5 to 10 of them, you look at the one quarterback. That's what you look at. The bar is set. So Patrick Mahomes set the bar. That's the only contract that Dak and the Cowboys are looking at. Well, maybe not the Cowboys, but Dak is looking at that. He's saying this is the benchmark, okay? Yes, you're right. You surround him with Coach McCarthy, who I think could come in and do a phenomenal job for this team because he sat in Appleton, Wisconsin for a year, Greg, in his barn, figuring out what works, what don't work, what went wrong in Green Bay, what didn't, right? And he's really coming in with a great plan. And he also has not 1, not 2, but 3 number 1 wide receivers. So if I'm Dak, I'm excited, but at the same time, it's like, hey, guys, the bar has already been set.
So here's where I disagree with you, Brandon. Mahomes' contract is so unique because of the length of it. I feel like it's almost hard to use as a negotiating point. So I get what you're saying, which is you look at typically who's the highest paid guy, but when Rodgers is on a 4-year extension, Russell Wilson's on a 4-year extension, Deshaun is now on a 4-year extension, unless Dak comes to him and says, what I want is this 12-year mega deal, which is not, it would appear, what he wanted before. Before he wanted 4 instead of 5. I do think they are going to be negotiating off of the Deshaun Watson deal. Which then brings me to this. To quote the great Marlo Stanfield from the fateful final meeting of the co-op, the price of the brick is going up, Dallas. Like, listen, if Deshaun Watson gets $40 million a year with the same exact playoff resume as Dak,
it's about
a
demand.
guy who actually does.
It's about
say it again.
It's about demand, though. It's about demand. Think about if Dak Prescott was on the open market next year. And the Dallas Cowboys didn't have a quarterback. how much would they be willing to pay Dak?
Oh, of
Think
course.
about if he's
No,
on
I
an
get that.
open market next year and nothing happens good in Chicago. How much would the Chicago
Right.
Bears and
Of
Mr.
course.
Pace be willing
No,
to pay him, right?
I agree with you entirely on that regard. And by the way, nothing shows you have full confidence in your quarterback decision like releasing it on a Friday night of Labor Day weekend like the Bears did. Bang up job by that whole crew going with Mitch Trubisky. But I agree with you. Dak is in the catbird seat as far as negotiating. But I do think it's the Watson deal that is going to be the base of it. And Wilds, one of the important nuances here is Watson did get 4 for $160, but he's got 2 years left. So the Cowboys have, or the Texans have 6 years to spread that money over. Dak's got 0 years left this year or next year. 0 years left because he's playing on franchise tag. So whatever they sign him to, it starts immediately, which actually makes it effectively more expensive than Deshaun's, even if they were to sign Wilds the exact same contract.
Yeah, and if the cap moves around too, that second franchise tag would be very cost prohibitive for the salary cap. I'm going to throw a question to you, Greg. How much? Let's suppose if Dak does great, Cowboys do great. Obviously, catbird seat, like, give me my money, I'm good to go. But what if the Cowboys aren't great? What if the Cowboys are just mediocre? What if they go 8-8 again, or what if they go 7-9, and I'm Dak's agent? And I'm like, well, Deshaun Watson, he just got this big deal. And on the Cowboys, like, yeah, well, Deshaun Watson was in the playoffs, and we went 7-9. Like, what do you think happens then?
Well, I think it comes down to individual play at that point. It's going to, we're going to focus on, if I'm Dak Prescott's agent, we're going to focus on my player's play. What did he provide? And we look at last year. They didn't make the playoffs, but what did Dak Prescott provide? He provided them a solid quarterback play performance week in and week out. If Dak Prescott did not perform the way that he did, the Cowboys wouldn't have been anywhere close to even having an opportunity to make the playoffs. So, yes, the playoffs is always icing on the cake, if you will. It kind of puts a little cherry on top, but your performance is what's going to speak volumes. Brandon, you know this. It doesn't matter if a team makes the playoff. That's extra incentive. That gives you an extra opportunity to shine on some of the brightest stages. But if you're playing and your team is poor, you better be putting up numbers, especially if it's a contract year. And that's what Dak Prescott did last year. We all talked about, will he be able to put up numbers? Will he be able to do his part? Is he going to be the factor versus other guys around him?
It didn't
being
resonate
the
with the
supporting
Cowboys.
factor of him.
But there's Jenna's point that it still didn't get him over get the Cowboys to the finish line on the contract. I think that's because Brandon is squarely correct in this regard. I actually don't think it matters if Dak plays poorly this year. He's still going to get this type of contract or more because the Cowboys can only keep him by franchising him for $38 million or letting him become a true free agent without signing him to an extension. And if he becomes a true free agent, Brandon, no matter how poorly he plays, because of the quarterback desperate teams such as Chicago, they will enter a bidding war and they will top this Deshaun Watson deal. So I think the only thing, Brandon, I think could derail Dak is a terrible injury. If he plays great, he gets paid. If he doesn't play great, he gets paid just maybe by somebody else.
Yeah, I mean, you told me how many quarterbacks I played with. I think it was, 18 different quarterbacks? Yep. It's hard to find a franchise quarterback. When you find him, you pay him. So hats off to the Texans and Deshaun Watson. If I was the Cowboys, I would have got this done last year. I don't know if that was more Dak's fault or if it was the Cowboys' fault. But last year, they could have got him probably for $36 million. Think about that. Now we're looking at a $10 million swing. So there's the Oakland Raiders out there. You already hit it. You got the Chicago Bears, who I don't think they will, make a splash in the water like that and go after a quarterback. But think about those
Jaguars,
teams that need
Bills,
a quarterback. Well,
a lot of teams.
Yeah, there's so many teams out there. Pay the man.
And it looks like the price just got higher. Exactly. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.